What's up, everyone? It's 2 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon, which means you're tuning in to Cannabis Legalization News. I'm producer Lauren, and today we're going to be speaking with Dr. Gary Rodziewicz from Your Perfect Dose about how to calculate your perfect dose. But first, we do have to get into a little bit of cannabis legalization news. So, Tom and Miggy, how are y'all doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Lauren?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
How is the West Coast doing, Miggy?
Hey, it's closed.
It's closed. Now you are essential, though, right?
Yeah, the robot masters do need to get worked on, so I do work on them.
Thank God, because that's how we're live, coast to coast.
Damn right.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody, and don't forget to smash the thumbs ups and the subscribing. Did you notice my new title?
I did. Former trial attorney.
Formal trial attorney Tom Howard. I got a legal opinion yesterday from a judge, which I was not expecting. And so, fortunately, my client was victorious. 1.8 million.
Jesus Christ.
I'm not sure if I'll get any of it back. I mean, now with the new normal of us being under the dome, for which our client, not our client, our guest that we have on, excited to have him, very interesting software thing that he's going to talk about with the perfect dose. But this might be the new normal. So how social distancing are you guys on the West Coast? Are you guys quarantined?
No, so I mean, quarantine's for the sick, right? And the new norm, I think we're gonna get used to. First off, it's gonna be the high unemployment and whatnot. But yeah, we're a service industry nation, right? So
that's right.
All our, we want to sit and lounge and have things brought to us instead. Everything's drive through or to go.
Well, I mean, but that kind of stinks. I had to get some drive-through today because I was starving a few hours ago, and I'm like, I'll call this local place, and they're already closed. I mean, they have curbside pickup. You guys still have open restaurants?
No, there's no open restaurants, just curbside pickups. And I mean, there's, in and out type.
Well, they're open. Stuff. They're open restaurants.
But, yeah. But
but they're still losing money. It stinks.
Yeah. Well,
federal stuff's coming out now. They just did $2 trillion, and so they're going to make all these loans for all these small businesses that hopefully will be forgiven.
Yeah, whatever.
You know who can't get them though?
Huh?
You know who can't get them?
Cannabis people.
Cannabis people. That's right. Because what you're doing is illegal, sir. You need to stop that.
It's against federal laws.
It's against the federal laws. The federales do not approve.
And you know what's against federal laws? People having a good time.
Oh, really?
Just saying.
All right. That's weird.
What's that?
I can't add my screen share.
Oh, well, did you?
But I wanted to share the other stuff that was going on in cannabis legalization news. And if I'm just going to be burning bandwidth, I'm going to take that off. But Cannabis Business Times reports that Missouri is their ballot initiatives in jeopardy, and it might not be able to make the ballot this year. And then that's not only in Missouri. That was out of cannabiswire. New York governor confirms cannabis legalization by budget, not likely. So it's not going to be in the New York budget. So now New York and Missouri are out.
Well, Tom Angel, he wrote an article in Forbes listing all the states that have pending regulation coming up. And he's like, these are going to stop in these states, kind of what you pointed out last week. And I was thinking about that. And this is not just an activist or law type situation, because now we have the election coming up. People are urging for the vote by mail. And if we can get that under control, I think we can get back into our legislation, our activism, as far as getting things approved eventually. It'll just be a different world.
Yeah, we can still continue to build our presence online and make sure that when everything does open back up, you can go just a little bit faster then, because you didn't quit now. I mean, this is still activism. It's just online activism reporting about where the industry is, and the industry is succumbing to everything else. But cannabis is essential.
It is. And we've known that for years, though.
Oh, we have, but now in states like ours, it's still growing and it's still selling. And then the other thing, and I wanted to highlight some cannabis legalization news. You know what these are?
Those Boveda packs?
Those are the Boveda packs. And so I'm going to send out another essential service mail. And so that's this week's Boveda packs. And if you guys want, make sure you stick around to the end, and that's we'll tell you how to win a Boveda pack. And I might actually throw in one of these. Throw in one of those. Give away a book.
Hey,
wrote that book.
In these times of isolation, people need to read more.
Well, maybe I'll include the opinion so that you can find out whether somebody reasonably relied on something. Yeah, that's what everybody wants to listen to. Well, was that reliance reasonable? Yes. Let me explain why. And
Only the sexiness with the law.
oh yes, yeah, that's right. I don't know if I can give up making checklists of elements that you must prove by the preponderance of the evidence and going through them and being like, no further questions, Your Honor.
Damn. So no more trial cases for you though. You're not taking on
No, I didn't say that. I said non-cannabis trial cases.
Oh, gotcha.
So like we did sue the city of Oakland in Illinois for banning hemp farming, for example. That is a cannabis related case. And then there's probably going to be a lot of lawsuits by cannabis companies against the state of Illinois to go get their cannabis licenses.
Hey, speaking of hemp farming, the USDA approves hemp plans for South Carolina and West Virginia, according to Marijuana Moment.
Yeah, I tried to share that earlier with the screen. We'll make sure that we drop all these links into the description after the show. But yeah, yours is working. Nice.
Yeah,
cool.
But yeah, there we go.
Now, this is happening right now to a lot of states, and they're all gearing up to the 2021 rules. And usually when you see these things that they're coming through and they're saying that they're approved by the USDA, they're being approved by that because they are essentially taking the regulations that came down, which I hated, and I hated on hard around Thanksgiving last year, and they pretty much boilerplated those, and that therefore they can get approved. But yeah, Illinois hasn't, and
but
general regulations on USDA and CBD hemp will be a lot more thorough in the state of Illinois, and more like, but it'll be uniform. Because of the USDA regulations, that's why all these states are getting approved by the USDA. Because I mean, you read these laws, and they very often refer to another one. That's one of the reasons why the city of Oakland saying no, you can't farm hemp here is a little silly in the sense that it's an agricultural commodity that the USDA says here's how you do it, and then the state says here's how you do it according to what the feds say, and then you have this little community going no. Yeah, it's not how it works, bro. Yeah,
but I think a lot of this too. I read an article. I had a whole bunch of stuff lined up to talk about, but then one of those automatic goddamn when the feeds, the little videos in those feeds start playing, I couldn't figure out which time it was.
Everything these days is just designed to distract your attention. So like whenever you have one of those great thoughts and you sit down and you're going to write it out, before you can get to wherever you're going to write it out on, there's at least 4 pop-up ads, and then you're like, what was I doing?
Seriously. Well, I had these all staged for topics, and then I had to close it out because I couldn't figure out the one that was doing it. But I think it was Oklahoma or Idaho. But they're trying to. One of these politicians are saying, "Look, recreational cannabis will help bring." We're at a time now with all this unemployment going on that people need to look for other ways. The service industry.
The legislative session is usually done by June in Illinois. And then like we had that Texas guy judge on that explained that the Texas legislature meets once every other year. So maybe they're just at home this year. I don't know.
I just think it's a good time to restructure our infrastructure, as far as how we look at things now that we're essential.
Well, it's great being essential, but at the same time, I hope that the broadband internet is really, think about 5G when that's here. That's going to help so much, but then I guess the bandwidth will still get crippled. However, if we're going to find out how much work we can do like this, but like I've been doing this, like my whole business is on this stuff. And so I've been running my law firm the consulting firm you can run completely online because in consulting, you don't have to go to trial.
Well, you don't have to be in person too. Everything can be on video. You're going to be a Zoom expert by the end of this year.
I don't use Zoom. This is StreamYard. And then we also use Google Hangouts.
But I mean, as far as when you do like clients, can't you do FaceTime or whatever?
And then there's depositions that you can do as a trial attorney. You can do depositions and be like, so, sir, can you please explain to me how you know the defendant? And then other relevant questions germane to the elements you're trying to prove. But those are allowed to be done by video deposition. And the rules in Illinois have provided for that since 2010, at least. So other states are probably there too,
Well, don't you think as we go through this with the new norms, I think the court's going to adapt Zoom, and you're going to have a case where you're going to have to go through a feed at home, and then you're going to all right, I'll turn myself in eventually.
Oh, I don't know about that, because like then you get into juries and all this other stuff. So I still think that the trials are still going to be done in courts of law in person. Yeah, I just don't think that the I mean, maybe some motion practice hearings. I could see that where it's like, Your Honor, this is how the law is. And so like, there's no, there's a difference between law and fact in court and in the practice of being a lawyer. And a lot of people don't realize that when they're outside of the practice. And so the reason why you have trials is to find facts. The reasons why you have briefings and you can have arguments and you can have a briefing schedule. And so like I might not have to go to court in Oakland, Illinois. It might just be decided on what they call motions for summary or motion practice. And so that motion practice might be what they call dispositive, and then they can get rid of the litigation. Or it has to proceed to discovery because there's all these thorny factual issues. That's why this one, it's only a 22-page opinion, had to go to trial because of the facts.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's true because I just know like my experience of court. Well, for one, traffic court being a lower case where I tried to settle a couple $100 tickets. I thought I was going to have a judge and face everything. Nah, it was just some clerk, pound a stamp, took my check, and I was good to go. I'm like, all right, I guess that's how it is.
Sometimes there's an administrative judge.
Yeah. But at least there's weed.
Oh, thank goodness. But how do you know if you get just the right amount of weed?
That's the question.
Like a perfect dose. If there was a way to control the cannabis dosage, and if Lauren would like bring on a guest.
Yeah, I think somebody might have a little knowledge about that. So let's bring on Gary. How you doing?
Some guy, anyway. Hi, guys.
Hi, Gary.
Hey, Gary. Now, Rods. What's Rods?
Rods is short for Rodziewicz. It's one of my big Polish names, so Rods like kind of works,
Dr. Rods, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
So, what do you know about your perfect dose or the perfect dose of cannabis?
That's a good question. All right. So the whole idea was I'm a doctor up in Syracuse, New York, and I had a friend a few years ago who, really, really nice lady, but was housebound with like rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis. Calls me up and says, help. Okay. I said, sure. What do you want to do? Let's try some medical cannabis. Let's try some medical marijuana. So I got certified in New York State. We worked together for a few months and astonishingly good results, right? She was able to get out of the house, go to exercise classes, completely changed her life. So I said, all right, let's give this about 6 months, see what happens. Got some people running through our practice. After about 6 months, we looked at our data, right? And noticed there were some astonishingly good results, right? PTSD folks were getting out of the house. 120 milligram OxyContin. People with chronic pain were off their opioids. Crazy good results. But only about 1 out of 3 people were getting those kind of results. It's kind of irritated me. It's like, what's with this, right? So we just started calling people up on the phone and said, tell me how you're doing. And based on how one guy was doing, I made a suggestion from another guy. All of a sudden, when you start looping like that, okay, asking people how they're doing, making suggestions, checking back, our results got up to like 80%, reliably good results in 80% of the people who were doing this with. Sent it out to some people, said, look, maybe I'm crazy, you tell me. And we sent it out to 2 groups. Now 2 groups said, no, this appears to be right. So that's a medical practice. Thought about it, well, gee, this way of adding and adjusting, right, is something we can sort of formalize into a set of instructions, an algorithm they call it, which can then be turned into a machine learning algorithm, artificial intelligence. So we said, I've got a really smart friend who does this for a living. I said, dude, how? And he did. He's got a really good algorithm now for this thing. And then we said, well, gee, as opposed to doing it with one medical practice or a bunch of medical practices on the telephone, why don't we see if we can reach people with an app that will provide, allow this kind of thinking and suggesting to be more accessible to folks all around the world. So that's the whole Your Perfect Dose thing in a nutshell.
So you got machine learning behind your app as well?
Okay.
So that's amazing, though. Like you're talking about a medical plant, a beneficial medical plant, but because of the non-standardization of dose, or maybe it's not just the standardization, maybe it is the unique impact or effects that it has on the person taking it. You can create a substantially more effective cannabis experience for patients.
Time you hit it on the head. The idea is, I'm an old dude, right? So I take medicine for blood pressure. How did they figure out Gary's dose of blood pressure medicine? Well, you take about 1,000 old dudes like me, right? And you give them the medicine and you see what their blood pressures do. And that's kind of the average dose, and that's what I'm taking right now. And that works well for about north of 90% of the medicines. That's what doctors are used to doing. THC and CBD, cannabis, okay, works totally differently than that in your brain. It's hitting at least five separate chemical signaling systems all at the same time. So you really have to individualize it to every single person. And that was sort of the insight that we came away with.
Your background is as a neurosurgeon. So were you, when you create these questions, because I imagine a lot of it's the patient's, early science where you ask them how you're feeling. Does this hurt? Scale of 1 to 10. And then you ask 10 people, and then they kind of figure out like a nominal. Is that how you approach this when you're creating that app?
That's one way to do it. The idea is that you're always, we in our brains, okay, are always trying to figure out like what's important. Is it a person's age? Is it the problems that they have? Is it the kind of THC? What's going into making this suggestion, right? And the cool thing about getting it out of my head and into a machine learning algorithm is that algorithm can look at hundreds or thousands of people over maybe tens or hundreds of different possible influences, and then say, okay, this is probably the best one. Let's try that. So it's really kind of a cool sort of enhanced cognition, if you will, trying to tune it.
What data does your algorithm use then to identify these things to make that perfect dose?
Lots of different kinds, all the usual sort of, age, sex, what problems people are having. A lot of it depends on how they responded to their previous dose. So all that kind of gets glommed in, and then we let the algorithm figure it out. So, dude, here's the information. You tell us what the next dose ought to be. And with that, we've gotten pretty well. And as we get more and more experience, as we train the algorithm more and more, that's going to get sharper and sharper in terms of good suggestions for people.
What how many people did you start off with when you created your base of this?
Oh God, we've got about north of 3,000 people in our practice right now, and the data we're actually feeding into it right now is at least several hundred instances of responses. So again, small training set, if you will, but still able to get pretty good results out of that.
Well, then once you more people go into the app, you can create those more numbers and you get more accurate with it, right? Like you're like a community you're kind of creating.
Exactly. And the cool thing is that the stuff actually sort of the gut process actually has worked. We have really good evidence that the core of what we're doing works. And it's wonderful to see people getting better. It's just wonderful to see, our veterans getting out of the house, able to talk with their families again. It's great to see people, who couldn't eat from Crohn's disease. Finally, they're able to eat, it's a really encouraging kind of practice of medicine, if you will.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's one of the things in our show that deals with a lot of the cannabis activism and legislative change. We'll have innumerable stories of people that have these transformative tales about how like they believed something else entirely about cannabis until they tried cannabis, or somebody that they knew who got sick tried cannabis and it worked so well for them that then they become like some of the larger advocates for the legalization movement. So these types of technologies that can match a person's age and ailment to a possible strain. Does it go beyond strain, or does it also oh, you need some strawberry cough shatter, or you should probably have an indica gummy? Does it go that far?
We're still figuring this out. We're very, very early in figuring this out. The way that we there are like 500 chemicals in the plant, right? So of which two, the THC and the CBD, tend to be the ones that have the most impact. So what we really sort of focus on the THC and the CBD initially. If you look at, there are thousands of strains, right? So if you look at the difference between those strains and you sort of plot it all out, a lot of the difference between those strains can get captured by knowing how much THC is in the strain and how much CBD is in the strain. All the other cannabinoids, all the other terpenes are there, but they account for maybe 10-ish, 15% of the results. And the results are very different for different people. There's a standard joke, I guess. 5 people are standing around smoking a joint, right? Same joint. passing it all around. One person gets all giggly and talkative, another person goes all zen and contemplative. Third person goes out, and starts cleaning their house, and the fourth person sits on the couch. Okay, and then the other person winds up on a podcast. So same joint, but 5 completely different responses. Okay, so you got to individualize the stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was you, Miggy, the guy who ended up with the podcast. It was like, right. And this is the origin story of cannabis legalization. No, I'm sitting here saying like, this is fun to do these little bits, but it would be cool if I could actually have a podcast version. Miggy, what are you doing? Smoking a joint? I'm like, oh, why did you come on the podcast?
Yeah, nothing better, dude. Dr. Rodziewicz, as a neuroscientist, were you surprised when you started getting involved with the science of cannabis about the endocannabinoid system and whatnot?
It really impressed me. One of the things we did was we just sort of kind of stumbled into it by talking to people out in the clinics, right? And then I went back and looked at the bench research. There's a ton of really good basic science research about the endocannabinoid, as you guys know, right? And it's like, of course it makes sense. Of course this is how you have to do it. Another really cool thing, if I can give you just 2 minutes. So we wound up getting really good results with it. We have a lot of veterans up in upstate New York, Fort Drum and stuff like that. A lot of you guys and women, just absolutely terrific people, right? Went out there, put themselves on the line for us, and now they're back and they're suffering, right? They can't get out of the house. PTSD is a bad thing. We started getting really good results with these guys. A lot of CBD, right? Sometimes just CBD would get these guys out of the house, get them talking to their families, life-changing stuff.
Amazing what it does to like just drop your anxiety or anything that might be keeping you petrified. I remember because I was big into hemp last year, helping hemp farmers start in Illinois. And so some of the clients would mail me some of their products. And like it was opening day. I can't believe it was about a year ago now. And so like I had taken a couple of their pills, like, all right, I'll take 50 milligrams, see what goes on. Yeah. And this foul ball was careening towards my head. And I'm like, oh shit. That was gross. Like I couldn't believe, like you felt it's not intoxicating. It's just that you didn't feel as apprehensive. So like, I should have had some CBD before I had that trial, just so I could stay calm when my client is admitting that he committed all the crimes. I'm like, you see, Your Honor, it's open and shut.
Exactly. The point is, the cool thing is, you and I and our veterans take CBD, okay, and our anxiety goes down, we're sleeping better, nightmares go away, all that kind of stuff. Some poor rats in a lab get tortured, and I guess they don't like to get dropped in water. So you drop some poor little ratties in water for a while, give them PTSD, and then if you give these poor little rodents something like CBD that works the same way that CBD works, their PTSD goes away. And again, we see it in humans, right, with CBD. Our research friends see it in rodents with something that works like CBD. It's the same thing, okay? Yeah. So the clinical work and the bench research are all very congruent. They're all telling us the same thing. So,
I like to point out too that with the veterans and the PTSD, PTSD is just not a veteran thing. It's a domestic violence thing. It's especially now in times of the quarantine, we're all going to have our own little PTSD after this. But and the same effort, it is something cannabis, entourage effect. All these things can help you get through these parts. It's just, I always recommend a diary, but I think an app would be pretty useful when it comes to so you it's pretty much like a daily diary but digital, right?
Very similar. Yep, exactly. It'll be asking you, how'd you sleep last night based on how you slept and a few other things before you go to bed. It'll say, well, why don't you try this? And then the next morning, well, how'd you sleep last night? And then as it learns about you, as it learns about your sleep, your pain, your anxiety, whatever's bothering you, it'll be able to zero in a little more carefully on what exactly you personally need. And that to me is just really exciting to be able to learn more about people, right? We're going to be learning more. Let's start with that. And B, by learning more, we're also going to be helping tons and tons more people. It's like, gee, this is really cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, machine learning, just like with like your Facebook and all the ads being thrown at you every day, it's the same thing. It learns what you like. It knows like, hey, you didn't log in today. Are you stressed? Are you sad? It's asking the questions that daily people are trying to not remember. You forget, like, especially now these times with the news changing every 10 minutes. You're like,
Sure.
I forget about that.
Nobody knows what date is anymore. That's why our viewership is down. People forgot it was Wednesday at 2 p.m.
Seriously.
No, I mean, but they've been doing bits on that and all the shows, and all the shows turned into this show. It's like, God, come on, guys. Like, we had this YouTube thing and you had the real television. Stop it,
I know. That's okay. Wouldn't it be nice to use machine learning actually to do something that's not annoying, right? So hopefully we can do that.
No, I think it's quite useful. And then is the app free?
Yeah, we're thinking of it. Got a million different ways to go with it. We'd like to get, at least initially when we go out beta, we're going to try to make it free to our users, just to help people so that we can understand a little bit more about what's going on. Might there be some value in having this? For example, if you are a company that is making a product, wouldn't it be nice to have that as an add-on? Look, you can use our product, but also here's how you use it to optimize the effect, right? Why are you going to waste money on stuff that doesn't work? Let's figure out how to make it work for you.
Oh, that violates the first rule of business. Always do more business. And so because the first rule of business is always do more business, the point is buy more weed. So, if this app gets in the way of buy more weed, I could see this app falling down a flight of stairs.
I suppose that's true. On the other hand, if you have a really good product and your customer, and you got 10 customers, right? And 8 of them wind up doing really well with your product. Dude, you got those customers for life, If they get the product and they can't figure it out, it's like, try something else.
Well, there's that. And I just like the idea of using because a cannabis company would be like, you know what, we do need this app for our marketing purposes, or just, to deliver a better result to the consumer. And then, of course, they can advertise like, oh, you should try this flower. And it's still going to be their pipes or their system.
The customer, if somebody's using a product to get better, okay, recreation's recreation, recreation's fun, right? Be safe, have fun, okay. But if you're using it to help you get to sleep because you're a little anxious because you got pain or something, it's like your goal, my goal as a consumer is to get my pain gone, is to get my sleep better. If that company is helping me make my pain go away, make me sleep better, so I don't care how they do it. All I know is that company helped me.
Well, I mean, I'd care how they do it if it was rotting your insides, like some of those pharmaceutical drugs. But cannabis, especially like good, clean, pure cannabis, is not bad for you. It's not bad for your body. If anything, it may have positive benefits. We're kind of talking about them right now,
Right. Well, it is essential.
As a class of meds, we've been using it for a long, long time. The risk profile, side effect profile for this class of medicines for these problems is like,
it's great. Well, it's fantastic. You're like, why isn't this the first response treatment? Why are we going with these other treatments? Well, you see, back in 1937, Randolph Hearst, and who was the Standard Oil people? I was watching the documentary last night about Jack Herer. And so it's great. That Emperor's New Clothes stuff where he explains that these interests conspired against the hemp plant, from pharmaceuticals to paper to other, petrochemicals, to ban it. And then now we're finally catching up. I mean, think of all the science we lost over the last 80 to 90 years because of the smear campaign that they put on this plant. They called it marijuana, and they criminalized people who liked it. And
not the science, but also the use of petroleum products and paper. I mean, we've lost a whole industry just because of fear mongering and everything. A
whole industry. Couldn't think about what the hemp industry would have been if it wasn't killed before World War II. The hemp, including also the medical cannabis industry, if it wasn't killed before World War II, with the technology we have now. Like, I'm thrilled that the price of a barrel of oil right now is only about $20. I'm thrilled about that. I hope that it goes down to $5, because then it means that other alternative fuels like solar and other things are there. But still, what are you going to make this plastic thing out of? What are you going to make these mailers out of, which have like little bubbles inside of them? Now the hemp plant's back.
We had a renewable plant-based way of doing that.
We did. And I just can't believe that we as a society shut that down about 90 years ago.
Yeah, well,
we have to have something to prohibit, right? You have to not have anything to prohibit. What fun would that be? Anyway.
Yeah, you're not an adult.
People. I'm in New York State. Okay, New York State basically has advised healthcare providers that you should use THC and CBD as a first-line medicine. Some old dude like me working in the yard comes in with back pain. His knee is bothering him. Don't give him the opioids. Try the THC and the CBD first. This is like has been approved at least in this state, and hopefully will be more and more used in other states too. It's I gotta tell you, personal experience.
We heard stuff about the exact opposite, like nightmare stuff out of Texas, where a car dealership wants to hire a salesman, but unfortunately that salesman has a marijuana arrest that he pled guilty to, so it's a felony on his records, and that's going to affect their insurance premiums. And so, it's fascinating how many laws you have to get out of the way just so that this plant can do all the helpful things that it can do for the people.
This is why we need you, man.
That's why I had to retire from being just a simple trial lawyer and now a straight up cannabis consultant, right? Yeah.
Sure. No, it is. In our own patient population, we've seen people. New York State has actually a very good law. Sometimes it's ignored. Sometimes the employer will say, "Sue me," And then the people who actually get a little angry and go through it, they win. But again, it's like if each of us gets a little saner and talks to our friends and family, this is how cultures change. And we're changing. Let's change faster. But again, don't get discouraged. You have to just sort of keep at it, and then things really do change for the better.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. One of the things we can talk about then is the laws in New York, because that's where you're joining us. And unfortunately, that bug that's out there has knocked or do you guys call it marijuana or cannabis in New York?
I think officially they call it marijuana. I like to use the word cannabis because I think it has too much baggage.
Well, then what you need to do is, because we've called it cannabis in Illinois for a while, but even then it was illegal. And so maybe then when you have your next legislative session or the bill that you guys have that's advancing in New York, call it cannabis. And then how much social equity? I mean, how much do you know about the medical and then also any legalization efforts that are going on in New York?
I am not overly plugged into that thing. Our governor basically, prior to the COVID crisis, had it on the agenda. Said, when Andy Cuomo wants something to happen, it happens. Okay,
that's good.
So, it was going to happen. Unfortunately, we got put on hold because of we had to get through this crisis. But I'm thinking on the back end of this crisis, that's going to be one of the first things on the agenda, which would make a lot of sense. Get revenue up. Help.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's really helped in Illinois just the past 3 months. I mean, all of a sudden, here's another $150 million that didn't come in last year. Hey, and we didn't have to arrest all these people. So there you go. And then new people are getting new jobs, and all these teams are going to form. So hopefully, I've read the bill, but then everything happened. So I haven't read the bill lately. And so I have to read it again to make sure what's in the application and how much social equity have they put into the New York law. And hopefully whatever gets passed is going to be similar in Illinois in the respect that they really did a good job of tying the people that were harmed into getting into the industry, getting major points.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, major points. So you pretty much need to put them on your team. And if you don't put them on your team, you're probably not going to get the license. And so it's really awesome that they did that.
That's a great piece of legislation.
And then, think about it, in Florida or in some other states, because this industry is really expensive. So how much market share can you own? They made it so you can't have more than 2% in Illinois. So 500 dispensaries, you can only own 10. 150 micro grows, you can only have 3. And so so you spread it all out as well. So that would really help create hundreds, if not thousands, of new millionaires in New York.
Also, just frankly, I'd rather have an industry, particularly a new industry like this, with lots of small companies all experimenting rather than 3 or 4 big companies coming in and just shutting off innovation, right?
Yeah.
Right, and blocking everybody else out. And so the black market would be more resistant to that, as opposed to this black market thinking, and it's not black market, right? What do they call it, Miggy?
Oh, the traditional market,
Legacy market, untapped
market. Yeah. Hey, Doc,
right. Yeah, go ahead.
Is your app available through the Google Store, Apple stores?
We are not yet. We're hoping to have it through the iOS and then also on Google. This is as we develop it. One thing you guys can do if you don't mind is yourperfectdose.com. Anybody has any questions, please contact us. We're also on Twitter, Insta, Facebook.
I had that up, but then I've had a problem with trying to share my screen. Let me see. All right, somebody's screen shared. Miggy's shared. There it is. Go to yourperfectdose.com.
Cool, that's us.
Yeah.
And so right now it's just a newsletter. Is that what we're looking at?
Blogs and newsletters. We're just getting ourselves off the ground right now. It's been really interesting trying to take this process that we do in a doctor's office, right, with your brain, and then somehow turn that into something that you can formalize, that you can bring out to people. And for me, this is like the journey of a lifetime, because it's just so much fun. You get some really smart people like you guys, to talk to, bounce ideas off of, listen to, and we've got this absolutely terrific bunch of smart people kind of working it together. So we're moving as fast as we can. We want to, if we get something out, when we get something out, we want it to be something that's really going to help people, right? I don't want people to go there and say, nah, let's spend a little extra time, really make sure that we have it, so that when somebody's got trouble sleeping, somebody's got PTSD, they try to use it, it's going to help.
Well, it's an amazing plant that can affect so many people in different ways. Like I say, coffee and caffeine, most people it makes them wired, and some people it actually makes them crash. And if you have that go-to database as far as like, hey, you're female, 30 with heavy cramps, this works for 80%, this works for the other 20. Which one are you in? I think it's a great way to look at it, because it does help a lot of ailments in so many different ways.
That's awesome. Now, Dr. Roz, you said that you were a doctor. So what were you a doctor of again?
For the longest time, I did neurosurgery at a big level 1 trauma center.
So do you have relationships then that you could talk to about this app and be like, hey, as medical cannabis really spreads into the tri-state area out there, do you have a network of doctors and physicians that you might have to educate them about, using this?
There's a big education piece to it. Docs tend to be a little bit conservative. And what we've found is that very often our patients are going to be driving their own physicians, their own healthcare providers, not just doctors, to think about it, right? Because, you get busy and it's like, it's just another use of your bandwidth. Whereas if your patient comes up and says, look, really good doctors using really good medicine, doing, really good patients taking it the same way, you're really only talking about 30-40% of people are getting optimal results: sleep, pain, depression, anxiety, PTSD, ADD. Okay, only about 30-40% across the board on those. So that means that about maybe 2 out of 3 folks doing everything they could, good docs, good patients, good medicine, good everything, only 1 out of 3, maybe 4 out of 10. So what about those other guys? That's where this may come in and help.
Nice.
Well, yeah, that's really the thing, just making the efficacy of it. And then it would become an issue of having supply. Supply is kind of tight right now in some states, but I think supply is going to really come online. More people that can grow it, more licenses, more canopy space, more high quality, pure cannabis available to patients. That would be really interesting. So,
your point is, and folks, it's interesting. Our patients, and I'm sure your friends and family, there's, cannabis consumers in general are smart. Cannabis consumers are good consumers. Mm-hmm. They know what they're looking for. They know what good stuff is. They know how to find it. They're not going to accept schlock product, which is good. That's keeping the manufacturers and the distributors on their toes.
Yeah. So, especially as we learn about it more and more, I think we're past the point where we look at the hippies from the 60s and 70s and go, oh, those are a bunch of crazy stone out of their gourd people. When they're really
out of their gourd in the 60s and 70s. They the normal ones.
I'm just saying, they were like the Paul Revere's, right? Or Chicken Littles, the house is on fire,
Right.
and now
Now, it's interesting. I've had grandmas coming in and say, look, I got to explain to my grandkids that I'm using THC. Help me. It's like, this is medicine. This isn't
right.
fun. Okay. We're not sitting around listening to Grateful Dead. Grandma's just using this so she can get up and bake you cookies, kid. Relax. And as more people just sort of reframe cannabis as just another medicine, just something else that works, you try it like you try everything else. It sort of destigmatizes it, and it's fun to watch that cultural acceptance start growing. Because it really is a good medicine. It really can help people. You don't talk about when you use it. All that happens is you sleep better, your pain's gone. How
many patients are in New York?
We are running not that many actually. We're running 100,000, maybe 150, 200.
That's about all we had in Illinois. And you guys, how many people live in New York? Is it like 25 million, something like that?
Yeah, roughly 20 million. So it's been the barrier to entry for patients and doctors in New York State was set sort of high. I think that it could probably profitably be lowered so that more people could get more access. Also, the cost in New York State is about 3 times what you pay anywhere else. That could get better.
Yeah, do you know what an eighth's going for in New York? A legal eighth, not a street eighth.
If you're buying a cartridge with a couple hundred milligrams, you're going to pay $80-$90 routinely versus 25.
It's just so the price is just all over the map in the country. And so it sounds like you're paying out your teeth. And then you said cartridge. Do you guys not have flower in New York?
They're beginning to introduce flower. My own prejudice, I'll tell you my prejudice, which is just this. If you're going to inhale, which is a good thing to do, I would prefer for me and for my patients that you either use the oil or you vaporize the flower. Smoking is smoking, right?
Smoking is smoking, but there's a difference between smoking a Philip Morris cigarette and smoking a organic, pure, well-aged, well-crafted, high-quality, freshly ground joint that's rolled with hemp paper. There's a distinction that must be made there. And so, but I get what you're saying. Any smoking is smoking.
Yeah. I'm talking about like the heat and the irritants coming in. It's not carcinogenic, but it's just irritating.
Right. If you vape that, if you take that same high-quality cannabis product.
You're right. Absolutely. Like if I had a vaporizer and I ran one into the ground and I should get another one. Hey, vaporizer guest, come on, let's talk. They taste good, but then you're right. You can tell when it starts to taste like burnt coffee. You're time to change your vaporizer cartridge. But something romantic about smoking a joint that you rolled yourself.
I know. But again, for in terms of making it more acceptable to the healthcare community. And frankly, look, there's some folks out there who have problems with their lungs, right? We don't want a guy with emphysema necessarily smoking anything. So we, to get the inhaled effect. Now the inhaled effect is really good, right? Because it tends to hit fairly quickly, may only last a couple hours. So for example, we use that to get people to sleep, okay? Then at the same time, we say, okay, at bedtime, I want you to take maybe a couple puffs on your vaporizer, but then also take maybe 5-10 milligrams of THC by mouth. Because as you know, it's going to take about an hour for that by mouth THC to kick in. Once your vape's going away, after you get to sleep, the by mouth THC is kicking in, and you stay asleep the whole night long. So it's kind of fun to be able to use the way of taking your THC, to cover both ends of a person's need for bedtime. So it's like, this has just been so much fun to play with and to help people with.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a very interesting development that happened in our state this week or last week. The Department of Agriculture said that they're going to start accepting biomass from the licensed hemp growers in the state. So now the cannabis processors mostly are the large license holders that are stocking the adult use and also the medical shelves right now. They'll be able to buy high quality CBD rich outdoor grown hemp and do some extractions to start making more products, to have more balanced CBD products and all this other stuff. Yeah.
Nice. That's how the rules work, right? They're supposed to adapt to this plant. There's so much, Doc, I say all use is medical use no matter what, because if you had a sad case of the Mondays and it helps you, it helps you. I think your app probably could help the non-medical user too, right?
I would hope so. We're just beginning to take some steps here. We think we know one potential use for it, but we'd love to just listen to people and see what other uses are. Also, this is, as you guys are mentioning, this is an area where lots of really smart, creative people are really working hard, right? Mm-hmm. Trying to figure out different combinations, trying to figure out different strains, trying to figure out different. Let's let this roll for a while. Let's all be talking and listening and see, how we can help people. That's kind of where our end is coming from.
Yeah, but there's stuff in there. Sometimes a lot of it's how do we protect our interests and make more money. We see that a lot. But one thing before we check out, I wanted to check something out that I thought was cool that I saw today, just to show our reach. Because like right now we're live on this Facebook page, and so last month it's called Marijuana Prohibition's Unconstitutional. We had more than 3,100,000 people reached. So great. We're going out to a whole bunch of people, and if you wanted to find out more about it, you really can't, because Facebook has shadow banned this page. So like you really have to like go to facebook.com/free THC. You can't search Marijuana Prohibition's Unconstitutional. We won't come up.
Step at a time, guys.
Yeah, that for sure.
But Gary, thank you so much for joining us today. And where can we find and follow Your Perfect Dose?
Well, we're on social media. We're on Twitter and Insta and Facebook at Your Perfect Dose, and then also yourperfectdose.com. If folks do have questions, we've got a little contact form on there. So just, write your questions down. We'll try to get back to your comments. We love them. And I really appreciate you guys having us on here and letting me blather at you for a while, because I think, this is all moving in the right direction. You guys are doing a really, really good job just getting people aware and educated about it. So thank you.
Oh, well, there's a lot more coming after the COVID-19 crisis breaks, but, we're growing fairly fast as a YouTube channel. And so after New York starts to really move, we hope to do a lot of shows there. And then, this is what I do for a living. And so like, as I make a living out of this, we can start moving around the show. So I might be able to visit the West Coast one day or the East Coast one day and do shows from there, because the industry is going to grow 400% over the next decade. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of new connections, a lot of new businesses, and a lot of people getting into this industry. So we're happy to help it out,
Yay. Well, the need is certainly there. So thanks very much for making people aware that, this can be helpful in their lives.
Cool.
Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe to keep up with all cannabis legalization news. We'll see you on Sunday for our episode with a lawyer from Kentucky to talk about their new legislation. So make sure you like and subscribe. Later.